All right, let's talk about the home front and a war economy in Canada. Now, Canada is going to get the War Measures Act, and the War Measures Act is simply going to give the central government, the federal Canadian government, the authorization to implement whatever was needed in order to win the war. So Canada's government has a lot of power at this point, and they're going to do whatever they need to make sure that Canada is on the winning side of World War II. As a result of this, they're going to freeze wages and prices in 1942, so prices are not going to be changing. Everything's going to be staying exactly where it is until the end of the war. This is going to lead to the rationing of sugar, meat, gasoline, rubber, and textiles. Okay, so certain goods that are crucial that they need to have, they only have so many, they can, or so much of a certain good. They're going to ration them to make sure they do not run out and do not overconsume individual things. There's going to be salvage companies that are going to be launched as well. This is kind of the beginning of large scale recycling. Because they're going to need these goods. You're going to need aluminum, you're going to need metal, you're going to need paper, these kind of things. You might as well recycle them versus throwing them away, because it's going to allow you to have more goods, because you're not getting a lot of goods during a war like this. There is going to be a demand for Canadian goods that's going to drastically increase the deeper the United Kingdom got into the war. Remember, we've already talked about the importance of Canadian shipping across the Atlantic to the United Kingdom. It was really Canada that kept the United Kingdom afloat during World War II. And as the United Kingdom gets deeper into the war and they start to suffer a little bit more, the demand for Canadian goods is going to only increase. Canada is going to create the Department of Munitions and Supply. This is going to give broad powers to expand industry, to fund and build new factories, and to adapt old ones for building war materials. So basically, Canada is going to be creating these companies to create goods for the war. They need them. Canada can create them. The United Kingdom cannot. Therefore, Canada is just going to start ramping up this production on a real large scale, and have a lot of power to do this, to make sure that these things are ready to go, building new factories if they have to, adapting old factories if they must, in order to create these goods. Now, these companies are going to be federally owned, but they're going to function like private companies. And the reason this is done is to avoid corruption. Okay, if you have a federal government owning everything and kind of managing these things right here, you can have some schemes where you're giving it to people you like, political contributors, things like that. So if you're going to function like private companies, it's going to help to avoid that corruption. You can have some of that capitalistic competition. However, it's ultimately going to be owned by the Canadian government. Now, in order to be successful on this, you need workers. There's going to be 1 million Canadians working in the war industries, and 2 million are considered essential civilian employment, meaning they're working in things like agriculture, communications, and food processing. All those things that are really crucial to keeping an economy going, to keeping people alive, like communicating with one another, having food to eat, growing that food. Those ones are considered essential civilian employment. The other 1 million are going to be working in the war industry, making ammunition, making planes, things like that. Often these individuals are required to move to a new city. So we're going to get the Wartime Housing Ltd. Crown Corporation, which is simply a government-established construction company to build these new homes for the workers. So, for example, if everyone's working in Ottawa, and all the jobs are in Ottawa, you're going to have to move from your little tiny town like Moose Jaw to Ottawa. If you go there, then you're going to have a house to live in. The government's going to create these housing corporations to create homes for you. There's going to be free childcare facilities created, which is going to allow women to work. Remember when we talked about the struggles of women during the war? A lot of them in the United States had children at home, so they couldn't just leave their kids, but they also didn't have anywhere to take them, and they were supposed to be working. So there's going to be these free childcare centers in a lot of the factories and around the factories to allow women to drop their kids off and then to work and be a part of the war effort. The United Kingdom is going to receive the most materials that are produced in Canada. Other countries are going to be receiving Canadian goods as well, but the vast majority of those goods are going to the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, because it's in the middle of a war, has no money, so they're going to be subsidizing these by the British government, which is going to ultimately help the United Kingdom, or help the Canadians, make a decent amount of money. This ultimately is going to help Canada overcome the Great Depression, because their economy is going to get going, and it is going to get going quickly. It's going to be a very powerful economy as a result of that. Overall, this is going to lead to a mixed Canadian economy with some kind of combination of private ownership and governmental ownership, even existing up until today. So the federal government really gets it going. However, they're going to operate stuff as private companies, which leads to this kind of Canadian mixing, so to speak. If you have questions, comments, put it down below. Otherwise, I'll see you later. Good luck.